Hey everybody, I'm Jake and this is 2DS So today I want to talk about a topic that it seems to keep popping up. It's happened a couple times over the years where, that topic's containment. Seems like we still have, I'm going to mute so you guys don't hear my Slack stuff. It seems like we continue to have some challenges around when should I use containment, when should I not use containment, what are good use cases for containment. And I've come up with a couple just very, very basic scenarios in which you can use containment safely, and that's basically it. Never use it outside of those situations. So, and this advice is specific probably to the United States. Laws may be different in other countries, so keep that in mind. The first, and the way I kind of phrase this is, what are the easy questions you can ask with respect to containment? Well, the first question I always like to ask is why, what are the use cases for containment? And so the first one is to keep my clients off of another network. So for an example of a place where this might be useful, I've identified an evil twin attack and I see my clients falling for this evil twin attack. I want to contain them. I want to bump them off in such a way that they don't, or they can't maintain a connection to this evil twin network. So the first thing we have to determine whether I can use containment or not is, are they my clients? If you can't guarantee that you're only going to impact clients that you own, I'm not talking about clients that have been on your network. I'm talking about clients that you own. If you own them, you can stop them from connecting to something in your presence. Cool. I own it. I can contain the crap out of anything I own, and I'm okay, because I'm not interfering. I'm managing what I own. So if you can't prove that you own them, don't do it. It's that simple. And this is probably the biggest fallacies that people get into, or the biggest trouble people get into, is they start doing this to things they don't own. They don't own it. They don't have the right to stop them from connecting. And the place where we see this a lot is everyone's got the little coffee shop next to their office, or maybe it's even in their office building, and they've got their Wi-Fi, and people take and go down there and grab coffee, and while you're down there, you're containing them, keeping them off your network. You didn't own that. If you don't own that device, you are not legally entitled in the U.S. to do that to somebody. That's jamming, basically. And that's what Marriott got busted for. They were basically keeping people from joining networks that they didn't own, and they were not devices that they own. So that's kind of the scenario I would use most of the time. Now, some people might say, well, they've been on my network, they're under my policy. Not true. That is definitely not the case. If you don't own it, you cannot prevent them connecting to something else. Yeah. Now, you could definitely have a phone you don't own that's managed by your MDM, and you poison the wireless profile through the MDM software. That's totally okay. But when you use radio frequency to stop somebody from connecting to a network, and it's a device you don't own, and it's a network you don't own, yeah, you're kind of in the wrong, and that's a legal problem. So the other reason we would contain is that I have a device connected to my network in some way that is advertising a network, and I'm trying to keep people from accessing my network through that device. So the common scenario is Bob takes an AP to work and he plugs it in at the spare port at his desk. And now he's set up an SSID so that he can connect his personal iPad that can't connect to the corporate network. And so you might say, I'm going to contain I'm going to deauth and contain anything that's trying to connect to that network because it's on my network. So that the onus is that, are you sure that device is on your network? I'm positive that that's plugged in. So for starters, if you know it's plugged in, go take care of that. Second, that's a problem with allowing access to stuff on your network. Maybe that's a wired .1x conversation. Maybe that's a, I need to have shut down unused ports, or I need some change control process to enable ports, or those types of things. Regardless, those are other controls that you need to have in place. Now, once it's happened, can I technically contain them? Yes. But you got to be sure it's yours. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, Mac OUI is not enough. Like, if I say, well, I see this Linksys device on my network and I see this Linksys device over the air, they've got to be the same thing. Nope. That's not good enough if you are jamming somebody else who just also happens to be in the proximity and have a Linksys device. That's bad. That's on you, too, because you're doing things malicious to somebody else's network. It's tough because you have to have pretty good certainty that that's on your network. And if you can't prove that, then, well, you got more work to do before you can contain. The other thing, I think common things people try to do, think that I'm going to contain them. Wow, my autofocus is really not doing well today. People think that, hey, having this rogue SSID here is taking up all my airtime. And so I'm going to contain all the clients on it in order to save airtime for my clients. That's not how that works. So they're going to beacon regardless of what you do, right? So that rogue AP is beaconing, 10 times a second. And clients are going to try to connect. And they're going to use airtime trying to connect. And you're going to use airtime trying to contain them. And you're going to kick them off, and they're going to re-authenticate and rejoin, and you're going to kick them off, and you just burn more airtime. So containment is not an efficient way of saving airtime. It actually is a very inefficient way because you're constantly having to kick things off. You're constantly having to do these things so that you can try to prevent access to that network. That's about all I really have, guys. I don't know that there's a lot of other really awesome reasons to contain. There's reasons people want to contain, but I don't know that there's really good legal things that we can do for containment in other use cases. I will say this, I'm not an expert in containment, but I see a lot of people trying to do this. If you can think of a legitimate reason to contain, leave in the comments below. I will be happy to refute options that you say if they're not legitimate reasons to contain. So keep an eye on the thread below. That's all I have today. So thanks, guys. I know this one's short, but just be glad to have content flowing again. So thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Hey, everybody. One quick addition to what you just watched. Having given it a little bit of thought, there is one more situation in which you can deauthenticate, and that's I'm thinking in terms of a pen test, like a wireless pen test. And so the idea here is that if you have permission of the owner of the device, or you have permission of the owner of the network, you should be okay. And I think that now, as with all good pen tests, you should have documentation that you really do have permission to do this. And that it is legitimate, and that you have your get out of jail free card ready and waiting. That also said that you shouldn't be causing enough impact. These should be, if you're doing a pen test, these should be targeted attacks. This is not a widespread deauthenticate everybody kind of situation. This is you have permission to go after these specific things, and you should define that in the terms of your engagement with the customer. But that is an exception to the rule where you don't own the device, you may not necessarily own the network, but you are acting on their behalf. So that's all I had. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good week, guys.